All right, everyone, welcome back. Chasing Winners, your number one show for all DFS gambling-related sports talk. As always, I'm joined Kyle Mastelloni, JP Lyon. Guys, what's up? Someone?
How are we doing?
Yeah, how's everybody doing? Getting ready for this terrible Thursday night football game, so let's talk about some better football.
So yeah, we're recording this like 4:30 on a Thursday, so it'll probably get out right around the time that football game starts. We put out a video on JP's Twitter, so go check that out. That's his thoughts on the game tonight. Viking fan JP on Twitter. Kyle's is obviously K Mastelloni on Twitter. Mine is Gambling DFS Tips on Twitter. We're gonna get into this week's slate, week 2 slate of football in a second. But as always, before we get into the episode, just a reminder, make sure you guys like, rate, review, subscribe. Whether you're listening to the podcast somewhere or you're watching it on YouTube, all of that helps and works. And so, just kind of helps us keep it free and helps us give you guys some fun information that hopefully you guys can use to put towards some bets or some DFS or even some season-long fantasy, or I know people do prize picks or monkey knife fight or kind of any of that stuff. Before we get into this week's slate, Kyle, I'll start with you. Any initial thoughts from week 1? Is there overreaction people are having that you don't really care about, or is there maybe something people aren't talking about as much you think it is, or is it kind of just a normal week 1 to you?
I think the overreaction would probably be on the Bills game. I still think the Bills are a great football team, just had a bad day at the office in week 1. So I think we're going to see a bounce back from them.
JP?
I definitely liked the progress the Eagles seem to be making. If you remember, I picked them in the NFC East, or to be the NFC East champions in our preseason pod, and everyone gave me shit for it, and they looked really good. So I don't even think that's an overreaction yet, but I guess we'll see this week.
I think part of that's a overreaction towards the Falcons. I think the Falcons are more so just not as good or even close to as good as we thought. Kyle, I'm going to kind of go back to yours for a second. I think that it's more of you. I think you have it right in terms of that it's more of an overreaction on Buffalo, but I almost think it's more of an overreaction on the Steelers. Like, Pittsburgh wasn't ever going to be as bad as people thought they were going to be. I still don't think they're going to be a great team, but I think it's like you said, it's a combination of Buffalo having a bad day at the office, but also Pittsburgh just like, hey, they're going to have a couple of these wins this year that they probably shouldn't win. Probably going to have a couple of losses that they shouldn't have. I think that's just kind of how that's going to be. So I kind of agree with you in terms of that, but almost on the other side. But it's still obviously I agree with you on the Bills. I don't think it's like the Bills lost and all of a sudden, their season's over after 1 week. But all right, let's just get into it then. Let's instead of talking about last week and what potentially could have happened, let's talk about what we think might happen this week. So let's start off. Kyle, I'll start with you. The Saints, they're a 3.5-point favorite at the Panthers. The over/under is 45. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, you would think that the Saints would be bigger favorites after steamrolling the Packers last week, but obviously the books are seeing something here. I'm on the Saints. I'm on the Saints plus 3.5 or minus 3.5. Sorry, I think once again, don't think the Panthers are that good. Scraped by the Jets this week, But yeah, I think the Saints, Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdowns last week, which is just unbelievable. So I think they're going to continue the bit of momentum that they have and steamroll by the Panthers.
Threw 5 touchdowns and like 170 yards, something stupid. Like
I know
that was the insane part.
It makes no sense.
Jameis is at this point where it's like, if another quarterback did that, we'd be talking about it all week. Instead, it's just like Jameis threw 5 touchdowns. Like, it's not even like a weird thing because it's like that's just what Jameis does. Like, Jameis just creates stats where it's like Jameis had 7 touchdowns this week, like 5 for his team and 2 for the other team. It's like that. Like Jameis just does these kind of things. But I think you kind of brought it up a little bit. I think it's also how Sean Payton likes to use Jameis, where they used to do it a lot with Breeze, where inside the red zone, potential running downs or close goal to go downs, they like these, that when they have this accurate passer running these quick slants or these quick outs or kind of getting the balls. It actually started back probably even before this, but the first guy I really remember was, people forget how big of a factor Reggie Bush was to the Super Bowl teams. Reggie Bush was the kind of guy where they would get him the ball, but they were getting it to him like they did in college, where it wasn't always just handing it off to him. It was the flats, it was the outs, it was like that kind of stuff. And ever since that, Peyton's kind of always been that kind of a coach. We've seen it even up in Green Bay a lot of times, instead of running the ball inside the 5. Last year was a lot of comebacks to Devontae, where he'd run to the goal line, shield the defender, and kind of make it. I think that's something interesting to note, both for gambling in terms of points-wise, for player props, but also for DFS and fantasy, is this touchdown equity of certain teams, because it's not, if the Packers are at the 10-yard line, or if the Panthers, or, like different teams, like there's different touchdown equities depending on who the coach is and how they kind of call those plays. So I think that actually was a good point with Jameis at the 5 touchdowns, is that might not be an anomaly because of just how they use them. JP, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're really hoping that Jameis doesn't then have a 4 interception game this week and kind of regress from the 5 touchdowns. I'm on the Saints -3.5 here as well. I think the defense of the Saints played really well that game, and I don't think, I would argue that the Saints defense is probably a higher step up than the Jets defense. So if Darnold can only manage 19 points against the Jets, then I'm scared to see what's going to come.
I don't want to say I wasn't impressed by the Saints defense last week, but it was a lot of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers being out of sync, and a lot of mistakes being made and self-inflicted wounds. And I obviously that still contributes to the defense and the scheme and putting the pressure on at the right times, for sure. I have no idea why this over-under is 45. It should be like 40 or 41 or 42. So since it's 45, I'm taking the over. It's like one of those things where it's like you look at the spread, it's like, how is it this number? It's like, and then you look at it, it's going to be like 23-20 halfway through the second quarter. It's like, oh, that's why. So it's like, I almost hate this over so much that I'm taking it. So that's actually my official pick this week. I'm going to take the over of 45 in this game. All right, next game. JP, I'll start with you. You've got an NFC North rival in this game. The Bengals go to the Bears. The Bears are a 2-point favorite. Over-under is 44.5. I'll tell you, this is one of my favorite bets of the week right now. I won't tell you what it is, but it is one of my favorite bets of the week. What do you like?
Well, I was trying to watch and see who was going to be the starting quarterback, and right now I haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming it's Dalton, and so I'm taking Bengals +2. It's really that easy for me.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm on the same side here. Bengals +2. I mean, the Bengals having a real chance to go 2-0 was something I wasn't expecting, but here we are.
This is one of my favorite overreactions to week 1. I love the Bears -2. It's I don't care if it's Dalton, I don't care if it's Fields. The Bengals regressed towards being the Bengals. The end of that game against the Vikings, they just got up big enough that by the time the Vikings came back and made it a game and kind of out of it, I just don't. The Bears, they were able to run the ball well. We'll see if that continues, because it is David Montgomery, and him stringing together good games in the NFL have been few and far between. But if there's a team you should be able to run it against, the Bengals are one of those teams. I just think this Bears defense is good enough. They're going to be able to put enough pressure on Burrow that I think this stays low scoring enough. I think Chicago wins this game probably by a touchdown. I mean, I could see maybe the Bengals, I'm not going to say backdoor because it's only 2, but if it was, let's say 4 or 5, kind of covering that with a backdoor, maybe be down 11 or something like that and kind of hitting a late touchdown. But Bears -2, I mean, you're basically giving me Bears money line. And it comes back to, we've talked about this before. Like, at some point you've got to stop analyzing stuff and just being like, the Bengals are the Bengals and the Bears are the Bears. Like, the Bengals are always going to be a little worse than we think. The Bears are always a little better, than especially when they're not as good. Like, the Bears rarely will have one of those 4 or 5 win seasons. It just, to me, seems like a great spot where, like you said, Kyle, the Bengals going 2-0. Like, is that really what we're betting? We're betting the Bengals to go 2-0. Like, let's just think about that for a second. That's kind of where I'm at on this.
They didn't really win the game last week, for the record. If we're keeping track, they didn't win.
But what I'm saying is, in terms of, there's going to be the Bengals record, and then there's going to be the, like, what the Bengals think their record is. You know what I mean? Like if the Bengals go to let's say the Bengals go to Cleveland and they lose by 5 points, that's a win for the Bengals. That's how the Bengals are looking at this season. So that's the Bengals would be 2-0 if they beat the Bears this week, because in everyone's mind, in their mind, it's the Vikings. And we'll get to the Vikings in a second, but I think the Vikings we'll get there. I don't want to bother you this early in the podcast. We'll get there. So Chicago -2 is my official pick. You guys are both on the Bengals +2. Houston at Cleveland. Cleveland's a 12.5-point favorite. Over under is 48. Kyle.
I'm on Houston +12.5 here. I think that line is way too big. I don't think Houston. This may be an overreaction on my part, but I don't think they're as bad as we thought they were going to be. They're still bad, obviously, but I mean, Tyrod Taylor absolutely cooked last week. Mark Ingram got going as well. Mark Ingram got going as well, so I don't think they're as bad as we think. So I think they could cover 12.5. I do not think they're winning this game outright, but they could definitely keep it within single digits.
Also, before we continue on this game, I want to go back to my point. I want to clarify, the Bengals are already 2-0. They might be 3-0 this week, because any game they win as an underdog is going to be two wins for the Bengals. So they're 2-0, looking to go 3-0 this week. So we can't bet on them to go 2-0 because we're going to have to bet on them to go 3-0. So if they win this week, then they're 4-0, which is wild. But JP,
true.
The Browns, Texans, same page as Kyle.
I mean, I'll probably end up taking that personally, but I pick for the pot. I'm on the over here. The Texans apparently proved they can score last week, which no one was expecting. But apparently they have an offense. The Browns' offense is very good. They hung with the Chiefs for a very long time that week. So 48 doesn't seem like a lot of points, and I'll take the over. There's
this narrative that when Tyrod comes into the game, your team instantly becomes worse, and it's I don't it doesn't make sense, because it's when we're talking about his most recent, it's okay, well, that was Baker Mayfield and that was Justin Herbert. We're talking about two of the potential best young quarterbacks in the NFL. If Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert replace, if they replace Teddy Bridgewater, then they're going to be better than Teddy Bridgewater most likely. But a guy like Teddy Bridgewater has this because he wins and he covers and he does all of that. So this whole thing about Tyrod, you brought up a good point. They score. I think that he's not great, but he's not going to hold your team back. I'm going to go it's so tough. For the pod, I think I'm going to go with you on the over 48. But I think what my official bet is going to be, when I put bets out, I like a teaser here of teasing the Browns down to 5, whatever that number is, 5, and then teasing the over to 42, something like that. I think that's what I like. But for the official pick for the pod, I'll go over 48. I think that's a good pick. All right, let's go Rams at Colts. JP, the Rams, they're a 3.5-point favorite. They come off a big Sunday night win against the Bears. They go to Indianapolis, like I said, is a 3.5-point favorite. That over-under is, 48.5? What are your thoughts on this game, JP?
Yeah, I don't understand this line. I'm sure it's a trap, but to me, they're coming in almost exactly the same situation as the Seahawks last week as their divisional rival. Seahawks came in -2.5. I took the Seahawks, was one of my favorite bets, and they beat them by 12, I think. Rams are coming in off a big win, 3.5-point favorites on the road. Give me the Rams.
Kyle.
Yeah, this Rams offense is high powered. I mean, they look like the greatest show on turf again against one of the best defenses in the league. I personally still think in the Bears. So I'm actually looking at the over here, because the Colts, they didn't really do it last week, but we know they're capable of putting up some points. So So I'm going to go the over 48.5 here. I think it's mostly going to be carried by the Rams, but I'm going to go that route over spread.
And for me, this is one of those, you hate the line so much that you love it. I'm on the Colts plus 3.5. Like, I don't know how the Rams minus 3.5 isn't a trap. And sometimes you have to take the trap, and like we always say, you're the mouse and you see the cheese in the trap, and it's like, you know what, maybe I can get the cheese out before the trap closes, and sometimes you do. But in games like this, it's like you said, I mean, the Rams should be, 5.5 point favorites, which in reality, it's not that huge of a difference. It is obviously a difference, but it's not like you're going from, a field goal to a touchdown, or you're not going from like 5.5 to 7. You're not trying to, you're not getting what we call those primary numbers, the divisibles by 7. But it's like, why is it 3.5? So it's like, I'm going to take the Colts plus 3.5 because it's like, it makes zero sense. So that's why it makes all the sense. That's exactly why I'm taking the Colts plus 3.5. The Broncos minus 6 at Jacksonville. That over under is 45. JP, hit me with it.
Yeah, this is 2 weeks in a row for the Jags. They are the essentially the best game of the week to watch in the noon slate. So I'm on the over here, over 45. Broncos put up some points on the Giants. Jags put up a couple touchdowns against the Texans. Neither of these teams are very good. I think the Broncos probably win because the Jags looked really bad. But I think Trevor has a better week here than he did in week 1.
Kyle?
All right, over under on weeks before Urban Meyer leaves to coach USC. But yeah, I don't like the Jaguars. I think they are going to put up points like JP said, but not sure if it's necessarily going to be enough to hit the over here. I'm going Denver minus 6. I cannot believe I'm taking the Broncos on a 6-point spread, but here we are. The Giants defense essentially made Teddy look like Patrick Mahomes last week, but here we are. I think Jacksonville's going to do the same thing. Teddy's going to cook. Denver minus 6.
All right, so let's play a game. So last week, I said that Teddy Bridgewater was 21-3 against the spread on the road. So what is he now?
I would say he's probably 22-3.
He is exactly 22-3. So if I liked him at 21-3 against the spread on the road, you have to like him at 22-3 against the spread on the road. It's just like one of these things where it's like, it's such an anomaly that he keeps hitting. It's like you have to keep doing it. So it's like, I haven't formulated as much of an opinion on the game in terms of the X's and O's as like I should have of, this is where Denver can win this game, and this is if Jacksonville's going to keep it close, how they do it. Like, I'm just riding Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater, he's 22-3 against the spread on the road. It's like, you have to do it. Like, that's just, there are certain things where I don't always bet trends, but there's certain trends that you just have to bet them. So, Teddy Bridgewater, 22-3 against the spread on the road. Hopefully, we talk next week that he's 23-3. This is a road game, right? I should clarify.
It is a road game, yes.
Okay. Because if not, I had his against the spread stats already as an entire quarterback, just home and away. But I thought it was on the road, so we're good there. All right, so I am Denver minus 6. KMS, you're Denver minus 6, and JP, you're on the over, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get on to maybe the best game of the day, potentially the best game of the day. The Bills, they're a 3.5-point favorite at the Dolphins, over under 47.5. Regardless of so the Dolphins won that game last week with the Patriots fumbling, obviously late in the game and winning it that way. Even if you take that out of the game, even if the Patriots kicked, I think they were down 2, right? I think they could have kicked the field goal and went ahead, whatever it was. Even if they win the game, I still think the Dolphins come out of that. It's like almost like we were joking earlier with the Bengals. Like, it's not a win for the Dolphins, but it's like, hey, like, we just went into New England with this guy, Belichick, and this new rookie quarterback who everyone's talking highly of, and I think Mac Jones played well. But the Dolphins kind of would have taken that as a win, almost even, not necessarily winning that game, just, hey, we came out, we played them well. It's New England. New England's always New England. So the question, Kyle, is does that continue this week? The Bills, they're a 3.5-point favorite. They're coming off a loss. Dolphins are coming off a win. Does that continue this week?
Not sure it necessarily continues for the Dolphins this week, but I mean they proved once again that they're ball hawks, they're dogs on defense. I mean they were last year. They are once again this year. I know they lost a few pieces, but the defense is still there. I'm actually looking at the under 47.5. I think the total is too high for a Dolphins game. I know the Bills. I said earlier that I thought it was an overreaction. I still do. I think they're going to win this game, but I don't know if they cover, and I don't think they're going to score enough points to hit that over this week.
JP?
Well, I think the Bills have to come back to the mean. They did not play well last week, and I mean, you are talking about Miami defense. Xavier Howard, pride of Baylor, right there. I'm on the Bills minus 3.5. Josh Allen has to play better. Their receivers have to play better, and I think they do this week.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the Bills, this is a rebound week for them. I think Josh Allen plays better. I think, like you said, the entire team plays better. It's one of those that, could I see the Dolphins winning this game? For sure. Absolutely. It's not, Bills aren't going to be one of my favorite bets of the week. But I think the Bills bounce back this week, and I think they win this game by a touchdown at least.
Also, if the Dolphins do win this week, I'm off to a great start on my Flores Coach of the Year bet.
That's against the Patriots and the Bills,
Very
too.
True.
All right, so my official pick for that would be Buffalo minus 3.5. All right, let's go. Patriots minus 6 at the Jets. Over under is 42.5. JP, I'll start with you here.
So the Jets weren't good last week, but they didn't. I mean, they were within a touchdown and they had a chance to win at some point, right? So I don't know. I'll take the Jets plus 6. I think the Patriots probably win. Mac Jones gets his first win, but maybe Sam Darnold looks a little better and keeps them within 6.
Kyle?
So they're giving me less than a touchdown on a Jets-Patriots matchup. I can't not take Patriots minus 6. It's just something I have to do. I don't necessarily have a big explanation why. I just have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for the purpose of this pod, I'm going to take the Jets plus 6, but I don't love either side here. I don't love the over or the under here. I think this is probably a true stay-away game for me. Probably in DFS too, maybe a couple pieces just kind of thrown in here or there. But, yeah, so for the pod, I'll officially go to Jets plus 6. This comes back to, I mean, Mac Jones played well in week 1. Is this continue? He's obviously going to have even if he has a great year, even if he wins Rookie of the Year, you're going to have moments that you're going to look bad and things are going to happen. It all matters when it happens. And sometimes it happens at 4 o'clock on a Sunday. Sometimes it happens at 1 o'clock on a Sunday when there's 3 other games and nobody even sees it. And sometimes it happens at Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football when everyone's watching, and that kind of can formulate your opinion of the guy. It comes down to, do I think he plays well this week? And I think he plays well. Do I think he plays great? Maybe not. I think that Jets defense they started playing better in that second half last week. And I think second week under Salah with kind of everything and all the expectations. In terms of, I think the expectations were that there weren't very many, let's say, I'm going to try and be polite, weren't very many high NFL caliber personnel on that defense, but I think people thought the defense would be all right because of Salah and kind of he would scheme it up and be okay. And I think towards the end of that game, we saw that kind of started being a thing. So maybe he's kind of starting to figure out some of it. I know it's only been 1 week. I just think the Patriots are probably up in this game right around a touchdown most of it, somewhere between 6 and 10. It's just a question of, do the Patriots hit that cover at the end? Do the Jets hit that cover? I don't think the Jets win outright. I don't think the Patriots win by 15 points. So that's kind of where I'm at. So like I said, I'll officially take the Jets plus 6, but probably a stay-away game for me. All right, this next game, another one of my favorite bets of the week. Kyle, I'll start with you. The Niners, they're a 3.5-point favorite at the Eagles. The over-under is 50. Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the Eagles really impressed me last week. I mean, you mentioned it may just be the Falcons being bad, but I mean, they still won 32-6, right? I mean, they dominated that game. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. An NFC East team actually impressing me and looking good. It happened twice last week. When the hell does that ever happen? But I'm actually leaning towards the Eagles plus 3.5 at home here. It wouldn't be what it's a pick for the pod. It wouldn't be a bet I necessarily take. I don't really have a strong lean either way, but I think Philly could keep it within a field goal at home.
Imagine if Washington won by like 2 touchdowns last week and be like, look how good this NFC East is, minus that one blue team from New York. Outside of that team, look at this. Because you're right, the Eagles, awesome. The Cowboys, even in a loss, awesome. Washington was at a point where it was kind of like they're competitive with the Chargers, and I think that's kind of a win in itself is kind of where you're at. But it's like if they would have won that game, then like we'd be talking about the NFC East the way we're going to be talking about the NFC West with how they looked. JP, the 49ers, we talked about the Rams earlier. The 49ers are the second team from that NFC West. All four obviously won last week. Do they continue it this week, or are your thoughts here on the total?
I'm look at the total here. The Eagles. I mean, this might be my favorite game of the week to watch. I was having an issue with Sunday Ticket on Sunday, so I was unable to watch the Vikings for the first quarter, which didn't end up being a bad thing. So the only game I could see was Jags Texans or Eagles Falcons. So I watched the Eagles Falcons, and I was very impressed with what I saw from Jalen Hurts. It was somehow exactly what I predicted, and that doesn't usually happen. But I thought it would be a good year for him, and it was a great game at least. So the Eagles can score points. The Niners just gave up 33 to the Lions, and they put up 41. So I'm thinking both teams can score here. This is another of my favorite bets this week. I'm on the over 50.
Imagine being so excited that the NFL is back, and then you only have 2 options to watch. You have to watch the Jags and the Texans, or the Falcons and the Eagles, and it's like, okay, well, football's kind of back. Like, not really. Like, it's kind of like halfway between college and the NFL, but it's like, all right, like I guess it's back.
Yeah. Complaining on the AT&T message boards was back for me.
We're gonna be on opposite sides on this one. I love the under here. I think the under is a great bet here. I think that 49ers Lions game just kind of, we'll talk about later with the Ravens and the Raiders. I think it just got to a point where it was just like, it just turned into a college football game. Just like shit was happening everywhere. It was one of those games where it's like, I don't think the Niners are putting up 40 points a week. I know Mostert went out early last week, but even without him, and yeah, they gave up, 30, 32, whatever they ended up giving up to the Lions. But it's like, it got to a point where it was like, that was after 2 onside. What was it? I think it was 2 onside kicks. It was an interception. It was like the Lions shouldn't have ever gotten that ball back. And at that point, it's like your defense is so tired. It's like they just got beat up once. They're still up like 2 scores. So it's kind of like that, like somewhat complacency of like, all right, well, like we can kind of half take this drive off. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, like now we've got to stop them or else they're going to go and tie the game. So I kind of think it got to a point where it was just, I'm kind of throwing that out. I'm going to go with this narrative that I don't think the Eagles offense is necessarily bad. I think Jalen Hurts is better than a lot of people think he is. I loved him in DFS last week. Obviously that paid off. This number's high, and I just think it's at a point where it's like you can take the under on this game, and I could see it being like 7-3, like a couple minutes into the second quarter, and it's like all of a sudden now you can kind of bet the over and kind of hedge and try and middle it some way. I think there's a better chance that you're able to bet the under and hedge with the over than bet the over and hedge with the under. So I think there's a better chance that it's like slow starting as opposed to it's 14-10 halfway through the first quarter, something like that. So yeah, I'm gonna be on the under in that game. And then I think a lot of people are gonna be with you, JP. I think that line kind of maybe gets up to 51, 50 and a half, something like that. So I'll always take an extra point or two if they want to give it to me. Let's do the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. That'll never be not hard to say. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Steelers. Steelers are a 5.5-point favorite. over under 47. Kyle, both these teams coming off big wins. The Raiders obviously against the Ravens on Monday night, like the Lions 49ers game that got to a point where it was just drunk and shit was happening everywhere, and it was just kind of, hopefully the coin landed on your side. Steelers, I mean, they went to Buffalo and they beat them. I mean, it's just, there's certain ways to say things. It was a tough physical game. The Steelers put their hard hats on, went to work, and came home with a victory. They're a 5.5-point favorite this week against the Raiders. Kyle, do you think that continues, or you like the Raiders here?
Yeah, that game was absolutely hammered on Monday night. I mean, both teams got wins that we weren't expecting last week. Both teams in extremely different ways. But I'm actually going to lead Vegas 5.5 on the road here. The locals in Vegas betting on the Raiders are going to get one more week of them covering. I think it's a pretty big line. I think it's a pretty big line for this game. So I'm on that Vegas 5.5.
JP.
I mean, like Kyle said right there, I think the line is a little high. To me, it's a big overreaction to have the Steelers 6.5-point dogs and then immediately turn around and be 5.5-point favorites against a team that won a game. So I'm going to take the Steelers minus 5.5. That makes sense.
I'm going to be on the Raiders. I'm going to be on the other side of that. Like I said earlier, and kind of how you said, I think it's an overreaction to the Steelers. I think, like we said, the Steelers are going to win some games that they shouldn't, and they're going to lose some games that they shouldn't. It's a 5.5 points. Do I think Las Vegas wins outright? No, but I think they can. But 5.5. I mean, I also wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh wins this game 30-3. I mean, Pittsburgh could win this game 30-3, or this could be a 27-24 game, something like that. So yeah, I'm on the Raiders because I think that's an overreaction. I think if Pittsburgh doesn't beat Buffalo, or if Pittsburgh loses to Buffalo by, let's say, like 2 or something like that, this line's probably 3.5. So it's like, yeah, obviously you should get rewarded for winning week 1, but it's like the easiest way to lose money betting the NFL is to bet on what happened the week before. Like, just be like, oh, I watched last week's games, that's going to happen again, because that never happens in the NFL. All right. Well, speaking of somebody who watched week 1 and is going to hope that it doesn't happen again in week 2, the Vikings are at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a 4-point favorite. That over-under is 50.5. JP, I'll start with you. You're the Vikings fan. Tell me why they're going to go into Arizona and win by 4 touchdowns.
First off, I'd like to say Jefferson was in. His knee was not down. Zimmer did not need to challenge it. That was incredibly good. And Dalvin Cook didn't fumble in overtime. I'm doing fine. And I pushed my bet on that. So this is bad. It's just bad. And they have the Cardinals have the receivers that we can't cover. We couldn't cover Jamar Chase last week, and we're not going to be able to cover Hopkins this week. So Cardinals minus 4. Forget it.
Kyle?
Yeah, so I second him on them not being able to cover DeAndre Hopkins this week. I am on Cardinals minus 4, and I put it as one of my best bets of the week here. I mean, I only 4 points at home against this Vikings team. I can't look away from it. But like I said, I'm not very high on the Vikings at all. Sorry, JP. I am high on this Cardinals team, so I'm on Cardinals minus 4 here.
Everything you just said is exactly why I'm taking the Vikings plus 4. Why is Arizona not a 9-point favorite? Why is this a 4-point spread? I mean, what are we doing here? Like, if you're looking at the lines of these other games, like, literally, what are we doing here? Seattle's a 5-point favorite at home against Tennessee, and Arizona's a 4-point favorite at home against the Vikings. Like, what? Like, Arizona just beat Tennessee by 312 points. I mean, like, what? Like, what are we doing here? There's no, like, this line is a touchdown minimum. It's not. The Vikings lost to the fucking Bengals. The Bengals.
Well, we beat the Bengals by 3.
The Bengals. The Bengals.
We beat them in overtime, actually. We beat them by 3.
Bengals. A one possession
But
game
it's
against
still
the
the
Bengals
Bengals.
is a loss. The Bengals. It was a one possession game against the Bengals where you were losing the entire game. You lost against the Bengals.
Yes, we should have lost by 2 touchdowns in regulation.
I mean, you have to take the Vikings. How do you not take the Vikings? I don't get it. I don't. This is one of those where Arizona's going to win by 2 touchdowns. They should win by 2 touchdowns. But the fact that this spread is 4 points, you have to take the Vikings. I do like the over too, but the Vikings, I think that's what I'm going to take.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Kyler Murray to absolutely go off this week. And
Well, that kind of happened last week.
So that'll be great. Yeah.
All right, let's go. What should we do? Let's go Atlanta, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a 12-point favorite. I literally cannot still believe that the Cardinals are a 4-point. I cannot. The Vikings lost to the Bengals.
We're on to Tampa Bay.
It's
Bengals,
absolutely ridiculous. I need to dive
what are we
into
doing
that
here?
trap.
What are we like? This would be like if, let's say, like this would be like if Miami beat. Sorry, Kyle, but this would be like if Miami beat Alabama and then Miami was like a 4-point favorite against Appalachian State. Like that's literally what we're doing here. The Vikings lost.
Does
to
it
the
help
Bengals.
that? Does it help that it's down to 3.5 now?
I mean, right, exactly. Like we're gonna get to game time to be a pick'em, and the Vikings are gonna win by 4 touchdowns. The Vikings are gonna win this game 42-3. That's what's gonna happen.
Hold on, let me check.
I don't know how, and I don't know why, but it's like the Vikings are gonna become my favorite bet of the week, and it's gonna be the one that I hate the fucking most, and it's gonna lose by 4 touchdowns. I'm gonna have no. Hey, Baumel, what was your rationale for it? Because I hated it so much, I loved it. Like that's literally what's gonna happen this week.
It's still 4 on DraftKings.
Well,
it's just 3.5 on Bovada.
But it's like even what you said. It's like everyone loves. How do you not love the Cardinals? Why is it only still 4? Like, okay, sorry, we moved on. I had to get back.
We're on to Tampa Bay.
Literally, the Falcons at the Bucks. The Bucks are a 12-point favorite. This over/under is 52. JP, Falcons, Bucks. What are your thoughts here?
Well, the Falcons didn't have any offense last week, and I don't know how. I didn't know how Mike Davis didn't score. That would have helped all of us, I think. I don't know how they got blown out like that. The Bucs played a close game against the Cowboys. Obviously, they could score. I don't like it, but I'm on the under 52. Ugh.
Kyle.
Yeah, there's nothing I really like in this game. For the sake of the pod, I mean, I know they got blown out last week, but my pick is going to be the Falcons plus 12, and I can't believe I'm doing it. It's just a double digit line, and I'm going on the side of where I'm getting 12 points.
I'm with you, and my first initial reaction was probably the under, maybe the under, but it's like, well, if I like the under, then you're going to lean to a dog, especially if it's a double-digit dog. So I'm with you. I'm going to take the Falcons plus 12. Officially for this podcast, I don't know if it'll be a bet for me in real life, or I don't know how I'll purchase game in real life when it comes to it. But officially for the pod, I'll take that Falcons plus 12. Like you said, it just double-digit points, too many. I mean, they could lose this game by 40 points easily. I mean, this game could be over in the first quarter. They could be down 24-0. But I'll take the 12 points here, and probably when they lose by 4 touchdowns this week will be the last time I bet the Falcons. So that's
or they could lose 28-3. That'd be funny too.
That was the Brady's trolls with his like just having the clock on in the background. Like it's just like he does it, and it's like like he's at the point whether it's him or it's like his PR people doing it that like when it gets noticed, he's like a yes, like they noticed it, like they saw it. Like, yes.
I firmly believe that the reason he waited so long to post the W video is because he kept like missing when the clock said 3:28, and he just didn't think to reset it back to 3:28, so he had to wait day after day to get it.
It's like every time when you're trying to like reset like your microwave to like match your oven or like something like that. So it's like you wait for the oven to like go to like 328, and then it's like you miss it by like 10 seconds. You're like, fuck, like, I gotta wait again. I gotta match it up. That's exactly what he was doing. All right, let's go Dallas at where are they? The Chargers this week. Dallas, they're a 3.5-point dog. Obviously, Chargers 3.5-point favorite at home. This over under is 55. Up there with one of the highest of the week. There's a couple that are kind of right at that number. Chargers 3.5-point favorite over under 55. JP, what are your thoughts here?
We've got 3 games in a row here that are all 55, 54.5, somewhere there. So I'm on the Cowboys plus 3.5 here. I don't think the Chargers looked that great last week. I could be wrong, but I feel like the Cowboys look better. Their defense is kind of taking a hit if DeMarcus Lawrence is out. But I'll still lean with that offense, and I guess they don't really need Ezekiel Elliott. Are they just never going to use him? Because, I mean, I would love to get paid that kind of money to not do anything. That'd be great.
That sounds great. But yeah, I agree with you. I think DeMarcus Lawrence, that's a big question mark, obviously, for that Cowboys. Kyle, what are your thoughts here?
Like I said earlier, I can't believe 2 teams in the NFC East actually impressed me playing other divisions last week. But here we are. I was super impressed by the Cowboys last week. Like JP said, I wasn't overly impressed by the Chargers. I know they got away with a win, but I mean, super close game throughout. I'm gonna go Cowboys 3.5 here. The defense could take a hit, but when was the defense ever good with the Cowboys? I mean, even with DeMarcus Lawrence playing, they weren't great. So I'm gonna stick with my pick of Cowboys 3.5 here.
I'm gonna join you guys. I think the Cowboys plus 3.5. I like that. For the podcast, definitely. I like the over too. I think that kind of comes into play because, like you said, if you're betting on the Cowboys, you're not betting on them to hold anybody to 10 points, 13 points. You're betting on them to score 30 points. That's what you're doing when you're betting on the Cowboys. So yeah, I like that too. Dak obviously looked good week 1. A lot of the questions were answered. Could he move? Can he throw? Can he plant? Can he do everything? Can he take a hit? I think all those questions were answered. Now, obviously, it's the duration of the NFL season. Will he hold up, and will it hold up, and how do they use him? And obviously, like you said, JP, they've got to use Zeke more. I mean, you've got to get it off Dak's shoulders. Dak threw, I think, what he threw 50 sometimes, 51 times, I think, something like that, whatever it was.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying Zeke for a reason. Dak's coming off that ankle injury. He's answered every question of can he do that, but now the next question is can he do it for 17 games? So that's kind of where we're at in week 2. Obviously, I'm not worried about that as much. Later in the season, that might come into play, especially if they refuse to use Zeke and Dak's throwing 50 times a game. Because remember, he did have that shoulder injury, as minor as it was before the season started. And, you're throwing 50 times a game. People also forget how many times you throw during the week in practice and reps and all that stuff. It's a lot on a shoulder, and it's a lot that, I'm sure they're obviously watching in practice. But it's still, at some point can become a concern. But for this week, I like the Cowboys plus 3.5. They're giving me that hook on the field goal. So I'll take that plus 3.5 Cowboys this week. Let's go Titans at Seahawks. Seahawks are a 5-point favorite. Over under is 54.5. JP, what are your thoughts here?
Well, the Seahawks look great. I felt really smart taking them as one of my best bets last week. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take Seahawks -5, and it's going to be one of my best bets. They looked really good, and the Titans offense didn't do a whole lot, and I didn't think the Cardinals defense was great. We're a long way removed from the Seahawks defenses of old, but I still think that Seahawks can keep this one out of reach long enough.
Kyle?
Yeah, I agree with JP. I'm on Seattle -5 here as well. I think they looked phenomenal last week. They're going to be contenders in this NFC West, so I'm gonna keep riding them for now.
Yeah, I think this is another overreaction. I think this is one of those that I like the Titans +5. I think it comes to a fact that the Titans, especially with Tannehill, have played better on the road. Seahawks tend to play close games at home, especially since you talked about JP with the defense not being the defense it used to be. I just think 5 points is too many. I think Seattle wins this game. I think I'm not going to say it's never in doubt because I could see Tennessee winning this game for sure. But I think with the 5 points, I like the Titans. I just see Derrick Henry coming back and having a big week this week. I think they feed the ball to Derrick Henry. I think they're able to run the ball fairly decently. They're not going to give up 5 sacks to one player like they did last week. That's an anomaly. I don't care how good or how bad you are. Obviously, Taylor Lewan's not that bad, and obviously Chandler Jones he's good, but he's not that good. That's an anomaly. I think it's just last week was almost just a throwaway game for the Titans. It was almost at a point where it was like, this is going to be a bad comparison because the Browns ended up not being as good. But it's like the year when the Browns, everyone was like, oh, like, look at the Browns. Like, they're going to be whatever. And then they came out in the first week and they stunk. And it's like, that's kind of what the Titans were. It's like, oh, my God, they got Julio. Like, how is this offense going to be stopped? Like, all of that. Came out, had a stinker. Week 1, it's over with. They moved on. I think they cover this 5 points at Seattle.
And speaking of Julio,
go ahead.
How do they not complete more passes to him? I didn't understand that at all. Because I have him in fantasy too, but I was just watching that zero, like, how are you not? And I turned on the game and they were throwing it to him. It felt like they just couldn't complete a pass.
They couldn't. Like I said, it's a throwaway game for them. They couldn't do anything. There were Derrick Henry at one point. I think he had like 8 carries for 6 yards. Like Derrick Henry, that's not like possible. So it's like that's just a throwaway game. All right, Sunday Night Football. The Chiefs, 3.5-point favorite at the Ravens. Over/under is 54.5. Kyle, what are your thoughts here?
Here's the headliner. It always is when they play each other, Lamar versus Mahomes. But if you realize the pattern here, they've played Mahomes have played the Ravens 3 times. Every time he's covered the spread. 3-0 against the spread, 3-0 outright against the Ravens. So I'm gonna bet it, make sure that trend keeps going. The Chiefs minus 3.5. It's one of my best bets. I think the trend keeps going. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the league. I said that at the start, and I still believe it.
JP.
So this is the point where I'm going to take a look at Kyle's best bets of the week. So he picked against my team, against Ryan's team, and he picked the under in his team's game. Those are his 3 best bets of the week. So
because he can't pick against his team.
Well, yeah, but it worked for him last week on 1-0 on their unders. So I'm on the same side. Chiefs minus 3.5. I didn't think the Ravens looked bad last week on Monday. They looked good. They just let the Raiders back into the game. So you can't do that against the Chiefs. You can't do that against the Raiders. The whole AFC West went undefeated. The NFC and AFC West, both divisions, every team won their games last week. Chiefs minus 3.5.
So yeah, as a Ravens fan, I hate to do this because I could see the Ravens winning this game for sure, but the Chiefs 3.5. I just think with how that Ravens defense looked last week, it looked good for a while, and then it kind of got broken down. So it's like, was that a scheming thing that they kind of started blitzing too much and kind of didn't really figure it out because Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. So it's like, how's that going to work out? But then there's also 2 interesting betting trends in this game. So like Kyle talked about, Mahomes is 3-0 against the Ravens. But when you're looking at Kansas City in their last 9 games going back to last year, they're 8-1 straight up, and they're 1-8 against the spread. So it's like, as good as they are, they've been awful against the spread. So do I take the Chiefs being 3-0 against the spread, Mahomes versus Lamar, or do I take the Ravens because the Chiefs are 1-8 against the spread their last 9? I'm going to take the Chiefs as much as I hate it. I don't love it. It's not going to be a bet for me. It's definitely not a best bet. It almost seems too easy. Like, how could the Chiefs not win this game by 2 touchdowns? Because, like you said, the Ravens, they didn't play bad, but they let the Raiders back in the game. But it was on Monday Night Football. Everyone saw it. Everyone's like, oh, the Ravens, like, they're not as good as we thought. It's like, here's my whole thing. It's like, how can we, if you're comparing the Ravens and the Bills, like, I don't know, like, what's a worse loss. Like, the Steelers are better than the Raiders, probably, but the Bills are at home. So it's like, you're going like, okay, so if we're going to say the Ravens are bad because of what happened on Monday night, then we have to say the Bills are bad. Like, that's just where we're at, and I'm not going to say that with either team.
And the Bills looked worse in their game too. The Bills just looked worse the whole time. At least the Ravens had like a good half of football.
Correct.
I'm not saying the Ravens are bad at all. I think the Ravens are a great football team. I just think this is a terrible matchup for them.
No, but I think there's that overreaction from a lot of people that like the Ravens are like now we're like it's the Chiefs and it's still the Bills and now it's like the Browns and the Steelers above the Ravens, where it's like the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens, they're always going to be kind of in that similar tier how they are right now. Ravens and Steelers are always similar. The Browns now, they've kind of built that team, they're going to be in that same tier. I just think we're at a point where it's like it's the Chiefs and then it's everybody else, but like all of the other top teams are right next to each other, and it's like it all depends on who gets hot at the right time, how things play out. But yeah, for this week, I'll take the Chiefs -3.5.
It's just unfortunate that the whole world was watching on Monday night when Lamar was keeping the Raiders in the game. I mean, it's just
exactly. It's tough. It's tough. It's just like I love people where it's like so we're just gonna say he kept the Ravens in the game and the Raiders in the game. Where it's like, all right, like I guess that's like you could just say that about almost everybody. That's like a defense that they score a touchdown and then they give up like 3 touchdowns the next 4 drives. Like, oh, well, they kept their team in the game because their offense can't fucking score, but then they couldn't stop anybody. It's like, well, yeah, if our offense fucking scored, like if our defense stops, if we just stopped the Raiders once, like 120 times in that second half and just didn't do it once. Just not once. And I know Lamar had the late fumble, and obviously that hurts, but at the end of the game, and I know I'm not trying to pick on you guys, but there's how many times would it be like, hey, like I just want to go down and have a chance to win the game. And Lamar drove down the field, gave you a chance to win the game, kicked a go-ahead field goal. It's like at that point in the game, it's like everything that's happened, it's like, you're just trying to get into a spot to win the game. At that point, your quarterback's job is to not lose you the game, and maybe he did later on, but he got you in a spot to win the game. But none of that happens if the defense just doesn't let them go 40 yards in 32 seconds or whatever it was. It's like at that point, it's like I don't know. It was a bad team effort for the last 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes of that game. Outside of Justin Tucker, because Justin Tucker is just, I mean, that man is something special. It's like it's wild. Like he comes on to kick a field goal, it's like, oh, time to go to the bathroom. Like you can go before he kicks the ball. Like that's how that is with him. We always talk about the keys. You remember in the Madden games when you had like the field goal thing and you had like the lines on like the inside of the field goal where it was like you got the more points the closer like to the middle you kicked it. It's like Justin Tucker plays that game in real life. Like it's like it was kind of close to the right upright, like, and like only give me 2 points. I don't want all 3 points. Like it was too close to the upright. Like I need to hit it right. Like that's how he is. But whatever. That's a story for another day. Lions at the Packers Monday night. Packers 11.5 point favorite, over under 48. Packers, I'm not going to say they went to New Orleans. They went to Jacksonville, which was a home game for New Orleans, and New Orleans beat them by 312. Kyle, Packers have to bounce back this week against the Lions, right?
Oh, yeah. I think the Packers bounce back this week. I think they win this game 150%. I mean, I don't have a lean on the side. I think it's a little too wide there, but I would lean the Packers. My official pick here is the under 48, because I mean, I think we go both ways here. I think the Lions put up a ton of points last week on the Niners, but this week I think it's a regression to the mean a bit for them. And then also the Packers are going to win this game. I could see it being like a 20 to 10, like a 20-21-10 type deal. So yeah, I'm on the under 48 here.
JP?
For all the reasons Kyle just mentioned, I'm going to be on the over. It seems like a low total for a Lions-Packers game to me. Not both teams. One team scored points last week. I don't think the Lions' defense is anything special. No Jeff Okudah now. They're going to give up points, and the Packers have to score points eventually. But I would think they'd start this week. I just need about 3 touchdowns from Jared Goff, and we're looking at the over. So I'm on the over.
I'm going to say that I think there's a chance when we come to bet this game that I bet the Packers, I bet the over. I tease the Packers in the over, and I bet the Packers team total over because I think there's a chance the Packers score 40 by themselves this game. I think this is we were talking about earlier. I think I'm trying to think of like what number you would have had to give me for me to bet the Lions. Now there's obviously like a middle ground where I probably just wouldn't have bet it at all. Where it's like if it's, let's say it's probably like if it's like 15 to like 18, I'm probably not betting it at all. But I think realistically, for me to bet the Lions here, I think I'd need 20 points. Like that's really how I feel about the Packers. Like I think, and even if you give me 20, I'd probably be like, like I'm gonna hope it gets to 21. And that's never that doesn't happen in the NFL. That's like unheard of for it to be a 3 touchdown spread. And I think that's kind of where I would need this to be. I think the Packers win this game 45-13, something like that. So maybe slightly kind of close in terms of maybe being like, okay, like the over hits with like, let's say like, I don't know, 6-7 minutes left and then you kind of get a garbage time touchdown. It doesn't really look as close as it was. There might be a chance where you're somewhat sweating it out a little bit if the Lions only have 3-7 points, something like that. But I do think they'll be able to score a little bit. But yeah, I think the Packers, this is a classic. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is done. He doesn't want to be there. He's sabotaging the team. Like let's be honest, guys. We're going to be 15 games in the season. The Packers are going to be what? Like 10-5 at absolute worst? Like that's, I mean, like they're just not, the Packers aren't going to be a bad team. I think, and it's just like, there's no way they're worse than the Lions this year. I mean, I guess realistically they could be worse than the Vikings or the Bears, but it's like, there's no way. Like, it's not like they're not in the NFC West. They're not in a division where it's like these teams are winning and they're winning handily and they're like looking good doing it. The Packers had a bad week 1. It happens. It is what it is. It's a throwaway. I think they win this game, like I said, by 3 touchdowns. So I will officially take the Packers minus 11.5 for the pod. But like I said, I think I'll be on the Packers, the over, a teaser between the two, and the Packers team total over.
Yeah, the entire NFC North had a week off last week. We just mentally checked out, and we're not interested in competing in week 1. We're gonna try again in week 2.
Well, to be fair, usually outside of the Packers, the NFC North usually kind of takes the full season off. But I do think if they even came close to losing to the Lions this game, or if they looked like they did last week, I think the Packers fans would probably riot. You can't have 2 weeks like that in a row. All I'm going to say, and this is going to come off as an insult, and it's not supposed to be an insult, but for Vikings fans, like, if you guys don't have that Hail Mary, like, that takes away a lot of your, like, we're a halfway decent team argument. Like, that Hail Mary changes, like, your playoffs. It changes everything. It's like.
Which
Hail Mary? Because what are you? What? I think you're, what are you, 4 and. What was it? Case Keenum was the quarterback that year, right?
Oh, the miracle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keenum to Diggs.
So I think the Vikings are 4-2. I think they're against the spread their last 6 playoff games, or 3-3 straight up, something like that. But it's like that play kind of changes all of that. I don't know what they are. I think they might be 3-3 outright their last 6 playoff games, whatever, something like that. But it's like now all of a sudden it's like 2-4. Like everything just kind of changes. But obviously I'm not going to say the Vikings haven't had bad luck, because I won't say the guy's name who rhymes with Glaire Dolch, but, you know, they've had some games that they probably should have won and they didn't win. But like I said, if you're looking at this NFC North, the one constant almost every year is the Packers are at the very least an above average football team. And the Lions, I don't think we talked about last week. I think if there was a spot they were going to come out and compete, and they kind of did compete, even though it was in the last like 6 minutes of the game, it would be week 1 for Dan Campbell. Like I said, I think the Packers win this game by 3 touchdowns. So I don't see how it goes any other way. Was there any other final thoughts or anything you guys wanted to give out before we wrap this up? I know we're kind of getting right around an hour, which is kind of would be ideal to keep it right around an hour. Any final thoughts from you guys? Kyle, I'll start with you.
No real final thoughts. Just try not to fall asleep tonight during Thursday Night Football. It's going to be a terrible game.
Well, maybe if you had a better football team, we wouldn't. But you don't, so we might.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have an offense. We could maybe play defense, but we have zero semblance of an offense.
JP, what are your final thoughts for this week 2 slate?
I'd like to say, Kyle, if tonight goes the way of the Raiders-Ravens game, but not with points, just with turnovers, and I'm actually excited, I will not forgive you. I do not want to be excited for this game tonight.
Why not?
Because I'm not going to sleep.
We need one a week.
I
You can't have
told you,
like 3 awesome primetime games a week. I need one, and we've got.
No,
I guess there's a chance the Packers lines suck, but
it was legitimately every Monday so far. I've stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m. unable to sleep. It was Ole Miss, Louisville, and it was Raiders, Ravens. So, I'm hoping to get some good sleep, and I think I forgot to mention the Texans Browns over is also one of my best bets. So I have 4 of those. I think Kyle has 3. I don't know how many Ryan had. I marked 2 down.
Then, yeah, I was gonna say if you can throw me the we'll put the graphic up at the end of our bets for this week and all of that. I'll throw that.
Yeah, I'm gonna post
at the end.
I think I mentioned it in the video earlier. I'll post on like Saturday. I'll post like our cards, or I guess you can call them cards, but I'll post our cards with all of our picks and stuff, and we'll keep track of it now.
Yep. So thank you guys for listening. Week 2 of the NFL season, week 3 of the pod. So we'll be back next week for week 3 of the NFL season, hopefully coming back to talk about how JP and I have made some sort of a comeback against Kyle, because we all know this lead for Kyle won't last. So thank you guys for listening. Like we said earlier, wherever you're listening, rate, review, subscribe, like, comment, all of that helps us. Just hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, exactly. Yeah, exactly what all the YouTube people do, like the thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, I don't know how
you got
to
to get into
any of
the
that
good
stuff.
YouTube stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that works. So there isn't, like, I'm going to say, click this link right here, but it's not going to be a link. It's just going to say subscribe on YouTube. So just click subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button. Yeah.
Yeah. So now that we've nailed how to be YouTube stars, maybe we'll nail how to be NFL gambling DFS stars. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. We could be optimistic. But yeah, he's right. It's probably very unlikely. But hey, at least we'll provide some entertainment and hopefully at least 1 or 2 key pieces of information along the way. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week for week 3 of the NFL slate. Thank you guys.